will be talking about the cancellation of San Diego Comic-Con. But I won't be alone in talking about this. On today's show, as I said, I'm going to have a special guest. So on today's show, I have Jay Washington. What's up, Jay?
What's good, man? Appreciate it. I'm glad to be on with you. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if you guys aren't familiar, those most of you guys know who Jay is, but just to give you a quick recap, my friend here, he's a maverick, does it all, actor, comedian, media guy, you name it, he does it. Creator of a Mad Titan podcast, so outside of anything in the realm of comedy, in the realm of entertainment, he's got you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I'm working my behind off, even still through this whole crazy quarantine. I'm still working. Like, everybody's like, how are you working? Like, yo, I create content. I still got stuff I got to do. When I'm done doing this, I'm gonna record the new episode of the Mad Titan podcast. I've been working out and doing everything. So, you know what I'm saying? It's been good, man. What's happening to the guests that just said what up? What's happening?
Yeah. What's up? To all of you guys out there. So Jay, here we are. Just yesterday we got a notification, and it blew up social media that we will not have a Comic-Con this year. Initial thoughts for you first.
I was one of those people who initially thought, I didn't know how bad the spread of the coronavirus would get here, because you would think that people would have common sense, which we learned they don't. So with that, I think Comic-Con International, the parent company, was left with no choice. Basically, they didn't have any other choice, because you and I have been down there at San Diego Comic-Con. Many people have heard about it, but if you've not been down there, you're talking about 100,000 people, not just in the convention center where the con itself is held, but within the entire Gaslamp district.
Downtown. Yeah.
It's all of downtown San Diego pretty much. And, with this not being under control yet. Yeah, you have cities like Los Angeles that are beginning to flatten their curve, and other cities that are doing that. It's not under control. And a lot of people, were like, well, we can't do anything until we have a cure. You'll never have a cure for these type of viruses. You'll have a vaccine. And at the same time, you can't just pause everything. But with that, it's a petri dish of stuff waiting to happen. Like, you and I know, and it's going to sound kind of bogus, but it's just going to be keeping it 100 with y'all. You and I know that when it comes to cons, a lot of people don't believe in good hygiene. So that is also a precursor for a virus being carried around a lot. You got people in costumes who are hot and sweaty, have to take those masks off, and then they got to breathe and cough. And again, they talk about people being asymptomatic. And so I think it was the best thing. I think this is a precursor to let us know what the rest of the year is as well when it comes to cons. I think con season for 2020 is a wrap. I think it's done for the season. There won't be any other Comic-Cons for the entire season.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you should say that, because I mean, just a couple of months ago, we were at C2E2, and here I was thinking, C2E2 is normally like one of the first shows that I attend for my con season. And, you do it to kind of rev up and to get ready for the other cons that you plan on attending for the rest of the year. But little did we know that was going to be our last con.
Listen, I'm kind of glad I got one. I'm glad I got one in this year. You know what I'm saying?
Right?
I'm glad I got one in.
I got two in, but I'm just saying, like, it's hard to believe that was it. A little unbeknownst to us, because I mean, in talking initial reactions, it's really crazy to think about, because this July is going to be really weird, because my summer encompasses a lot of con attendance, like going to different, traveling, seeing, folks, and you can attest to this too, seeing folks that you don't see otherwise any other time of year. I mean, yeah, we have social media, and that's great and all, but actually being able to hang out with those folks that perhaps they're from outside of the U.S. and they don't even have the only trip that they can afford to the U.S. that they save up money for is San Diego Comic-Con. And then even outside of that too, just the different experiences too that you would have going, you know, to that show. What, excuse me, whether it's the hall floor, whether it's hall H, it's really unprecedented territory that we're
Again, it's
living
the
in.
first time within its 50-year history it's had to actually cancel. And then again, we haven't these past generations pretty much have never experienced this. So you would think the last great pandemic that we experienced as a nation was the Spanish flu, right? You would think as time progresses, as the nation progresses and evolves, and technology evolves, and advances in science and medicine evolve, that we would have been able to handle this and knock this out. You know what I'm saying? When it hit, we would have been able to stop this. We'd have been able to curb it real quick. But granted, certain situations, excuse me, and certain circumstances didn't allow for that. It really is telling of where we are as a country in this day and age. And again, I was telling one of my friends, she's a publicist with Warner Brothers, one of my good friends. We were talking back and forth, and I was like, one of the things I miss about the con is kind of what you brought up, is the vibe of seeing people you haven't seen in a while. And it is like a giant family reunion, you know, for lack of better words.
Very much is.
It's a giant family reunion you have every year, and you look forward to that week, not even just that weekend. You know, you look forward to that Wednesday to Sunday when you're dealing with all that. And now it's taken away. And again, it is going to be it's going to be hard for a lot of people. My heart really goes to the vendors. And I'm not talking about the big time companies that were selling stuff, because they're going to be good regardless.
Independent comic creators.
Independent comic creators, small independent vendors and everything. They plan specifically for Comic-Con because that can potentially hold them over for a very, very long time. And so now they have to go without. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, just find those vendors and donate to them, you know, or buy their stuff. And it's not as easy as it sounds. It is difficult. It's different from just saying, oh, well, let me just go support, which I mean, it's simple to do that. We all know you just go log on a website, boom, boom, you buying something. But when you're in front of a vendor and you connect with that person, you decide to purchase their product, whether it be a comic book, a piece of art they've created, or whatever the case may be, it's something different by being there in that moment, grabbing it. You know exactly what you're getting. You see it in front of you, as opposed to seeing it on the screen and being like, do I really feel this the way I thought I would? So that's the biggest part that really sucks.
Absolutely. And it's going to be weird too, because, you know, just a little on me. I think I've told you this before, but I mean, even for folks out there that know me, my first exposure. Now I jumped right into the fire. And my first exposure to cons was San Diego Comic-Con. That was my first con. My first year that I attended San Diego Comic-Con was in 2009. I have not missed a Comic-Con since 2009.
Wow, you were in it.
Going a third of my life, nearly a third of my life. So like I said, it's so encompassed within my normal routine. So it'll be weird not to have that a part of my routine this year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very difficult. Again, I started going once I got out here. So I would say I got out here the end of 2015, and I've been going since 2016. And like, I've always had C2E2. So, you know, that's a big thing, but it's not on the massive scale in which San Diego is. San Diego is massive because of now it's not about the con, it's about the major studios now, which is another sad thing. And that's a whole nother story for another day. But it's like, you now wonder, yeah, next year is going to happen, and they pretty much are going to refund. I think they're refunding some people's tickets, or, you know, switching them over to next year. For those of us who had press or professional badges, I wonder how we got to go about. Do we have to apply again? I mean, of course, it's another year, but it's like, yo, we were already approved for this year. And granted, if all things go according to plan for me, you know, I'll have a badge in another way, but that's a whole nother story. I won't talk about that. But it's just, it's interesting to see. Because now the next big one, like I said, I don't know if I said it, the next big one expected is supposed to be New York Comic-Con in October. And you can almost for sure bet that is not happening at all. Because New York was a hot spot, A. New York has all these people, B. And if San Diego will shut down, New York will shut down. So it's like, it's pretty much a wrap on the season.
Yeah, it definitely is. Shout out to all the guys, folks that have just hopped on. What's up, Leonard? So your message, what's going on? What's up to everybody else who just hopped on? If you're just coming on right now, we're talking cancellation of San Diego Comic-Con 2020. Just quick plugs. Make sure that you guys are subscribing, all that jazz. YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. But just to hop back onto what you were saying, Jay, the thing that comes to mind for me in kind of rewinding the clock and thinking of, seeing all these dominoes falling of all these shows that were canceling, and then knowing in the back of your mind that San Diego might be the next casualty in a lot of those shows that were, canceling. It brings to mind of perhaps an option that they were considering. So I wanted to bring it to that next topic of, should they have postponed versus canceling? I mean, there are a lot of things to be said about that. I know, like, Comic-Con is such a huge undertaking. There's so much planning that goes into it. So I'm assuming that that's a reason why the decision was made just to cancel it altogether versus perhaps moving it, like some shows are doing, by a couple of months, just to see if they could still get it off the ground, or even possibly doing it as as an online thing, as some shows are doing. But again, like I was saying, a lot of those experiences that you have at Comic-Con, I don't think you can really duplicate having solely online. So I'm guessing that kind of went into their mindset of just deciding, you know what, let's just scrap it.
I don't think it's that. I don't think it's so much the people. I mean, yeah, the financial aspect of the people being involved, yeah. And then you could actually charge for some of the panels, because they could have done that. Instead of just, the con is online for free. Here's all the vendors, here's the link to all the vendors, blah, 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 blah. This is all free access. But then when it comes to like certain panels or whatnot, you have to pay, because technically you pay to get in these panels when you're at Comic-Con. How do you pay? You pay because you bought a pass. When you bought a pass, you're able to go into any panel if you can make it. Of course, Hall H's are a different thing. Virtual Comic-Cons now seem to be the way to go. I am a part of one that's going on next weekend, and it's going to be interesting. I will say that it's definitely going to be interesting, but it's also unique. And I think the caveat to all this is it might not be the best thing in the long run, because of what you said, taking away that con experience as a whole. You want people to be able to get out, go and celebrate, spend money. That's one of the reasons this hurts San Diego, because that's over like $150 million for their economy they lose out on. They plan on this every year. And I know there are a lot of people like, well, money ain't important, lives are important. I get that. I do. But at the end of the,
I was gonna say, it generates so much revenue for that city. For those who are not familiar, of the impact that show has on that city, they look forward to that show, just as you said, coming summer after summer.
Like, yeah, and so people will be out of money.
Yeah, that otherwise wouldn't.
And so, like I said, I know people are like the lives over economy, and I agree. But at the same time, when this is all back said and done, when this is back to a level of normalcy where people are like, all right, we can get a vaccine for whatever, and then blah, 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 they still need to be able to provide. And that's what this show was doing. Not just, and I'm not talking about the hotels. I'm not talking about the convention center. I'm talking about, for San Diego, I'm talking about those bars and restaurants all through the gas lamp that was making money hand over fist. They changed their business hours because of the con, because they were bringing in so much more revenue. And so that affects these small businesses. It's a domino effect, like you said earlier. It's a really big domino effect, but we'll see at the end of the day how this all plays out.
We definitely will. So with that in mind, considering the impact that, as we were talking about, this show has, far-reaching effects, not just obviously as a means of entertainment and something that folks look forward to, but also the economic implications of it. Outside of this show, I know you were just commenting on New York Comic Con, and that actually is pretty hilarious, because I actually, that would have been my first question is, now that's such a large show, not to say that the shows before it, the larger shows before it, weren't an indication of it, but now that San Diego has gone down, it begs the question of, what other show is going to be a casualty of what's
Look,
going on right now.
look, pretty
Dragon
much
Con,
all of them. I was gonna say Dragon Con is next. I mean, because
Dragon
here's the
Con
thing.
is the
You got
next big one.
this is the thing a lot of people got to realize. You understand it. I understand it, being in the business in which we're in. If San Diego Comic-Con can shut down, nobody is safe.
Nope. Yeah.
Anybody can. That's the thing. If San Diego can shut down, no Comic-Con is safe. Not a single one. Not even just Comic-Cons, anime expos, and these toy expos or horror expos, all of these different conventions. Nobody is safe if San Diego Comic-Con, the biggest in the world, can shut down.
Because don't get it twisted. Like a lot of other shows, they look towards San Diego, as an example. So like if it makes a decision on certain things, a lot of other shows, as you're saying, are going to follow suit. So it'll be interesting, whether it's, like I said, why we're saying Dragon Con or Celebration.
Mm-hmm.
It will be quite interesting, going into the fall. Hopefully, we're in a different place by that time, so perhaps they might not get affected. But
I think the reason they will, no matter what, is a lot of these cities, these major cities especially, are using their convention centers as housing / temporary hospitals for all the cases. Too. And so because of that, you can't just say, oh, if they clean and mop, it's done. No, you technically have to do a full decontamination sweep. And given the size of various convention centers, that can last from a week to a month. No one wants to do a quick sweeping thing. Now, I know people will say, well, what if they do it and the virus still is around? The virus cannot live in warm weather. And before the cons happen, because when the cons happen, they'll have the air conditioning running, of course, because you don't want to be a sweat box. But before then, it'll be heated, so the viruses will die. But they have to do a full decontamination, and that is at the end of the day what's going to really hinder anything when it comes to the convention centers themselves.
Yeah, definitely. So with considering all these things that we're talking about, that brings to mind the idea that there will be more time to invest in other things, to do other things,
Mm-hmm.
Things that perhaps, we've had on the back burner. So with that being said, has that affected or should say this whole social distancing, landscape that we're in, has that impeded anything that you're doing on your end? I mean, as I said, you do plenty of other things outside of, reporting as a media personality. You do stand up, you act. So I'm assuming with those things, at least probably with stand up, that's probably, drawn to a pause currently, but maybe with what's going on with acting, it can still continue, perhaps in the venue that we're doing now.
Well, what's happened with stand-up, a lot of stand-up comedy has evolved into virtual shows. I myself haven't done one. I'm real iffy on the whole idea of doing stand-up shows just for people watching and not having people.
You don't have that reaction of the audience,
right? Assuming, and then people are saying, people are watching on Zoom and you can see them laughing from their homes, but it's not the same as a person in front of you laughing. There is an engagement level.
Feeling that energy.
Yeah, for me as a performer, I need to see you right there. I need to be there with the energy you got right there. I can't draw that same energy through the screen. I'm not Electro. I'm not Magneto. I'm not Horace Pinker from the movie Shocker. I can't do those things. You know what I mean? And so it's definitely hindered stand-up. Acting-wise, everybody's now doing self-tapes. That's the big thing now. And so luckily, I upgraded the equipment when it came time for starting to do more streaming, which I can now do to do my self-tape. So it makes them look a little bit better. When it comes to, I'm a pro wrestler as well. That has been a big thing. So that has changed the way, no shows are running, because again, you have a locker room full of guys and girls and people running the show, and then you have the crowds. And a lot of times these aren't in what you see on the WWE or what you see on TNA in these major arenas or venues, or even a small or warehouse where it houses so much space. These are sometimes in small VFW halls and these small confined spaces. So that's cut that out. As far as the media end, it's been doing this. It's been a lot of Zooming, and which is great now, because with this, you're allowed almost instant access to people, because there hasn't been any, oh, they're too busy, their schedule's filled up. If you know them, you can speak with them. So I am going to, within the next couple of days, be reaching out to different people that I know personally that are celebrities, and like, yo, you think it'd be cool for you to do a couple interviews? Now, I understand at the end of the day, it's the studios and their protocol and the networks, how they allow that as a whole. But most of them have been very open because of what everything is going on. They still need to get the word out about these shows, about these movies and these projects. So it's changed. The social distancing thing has changed. I just really doubt, a lot of people are like, oh, it's going to be like this forever going forward. I strongly doubt that, because along with that, I'm also a bouncer at a nightclub. That's the number one place it's not going to change, because if you're going to a nightclub, if every single person, because there are people who do it, but if every single person that goes to a nightclub is going just to stand around, nobody comes back, because it's considered boring. Yeah. So I for sure don't think it changes the nightlife. I think the nightlife is one of the first things that bounces back.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would say that aside from as much as people are saying, and I agree to an extent that, there will be, some hesitation, but I know plenty of folks that are itching to get their sports back. They're itching to get their movie going, experience back. I mean, I was just talking to a filmmaker buddy of mine, and we were, talking about just like what we have with these cons. There's also a communal experience about going to a movie theater. Like there's just something, about that's, is awesome. And you can't really do that without physically going to the movie theater and being in a room with 200.
And I think people forget that. And that's the thing I think people forget. People discredit that. There are a lot of people who want to be, as they say, better safe and overly safe. But then there are a lot of people who, do not, for lack of better words, do not want to live their life in fear. Now, I understand also the whole discussion of the transmission of the virus process. I get that. Absolutely. I'm not withstanding that. But you also have people like, let's say I've been in a house 3.5, 4 weeks, right, by myself. But been in the house 3.5 weeks now, right? I'm pretty sure I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I'm one of those people where it's like, I can go out now. Technically, if everything was lifted, in a sense, if everything was flat, if the curve was completely flattened, as we all say, and the chances of infection for people were so super low now, I'm one of those people that can go out and be like, I'm good. And then people will say, well, what about that one person? Because if you do that, I understand the theory is, if I gave you 100 Skittles and I told you one Skittle would kill you, you throw all the Skittles away. That is making people live their lives in utter fear. And I think that is something we don't need to have. I think there is a level of common sense, understanding, and safety precautions. And again, the communal thing of going to the movie theaters, that has to happen if for another scale to keep movie theaters. I know it's been great that these theaters and these studios have been like, yo, we'll go ahead and release this major blockbuster movie. We'll go ahead and drop it to you on video on demand. But that can't stay like that. That can't stay like that if you want these theaters to survive. It just can't.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like I said, it's just something, like I said, visceral, in a good way, visceral about being able to go to a movie theater, smell of popcorn, having all your, your snacks, your favorite snacks with you. Seeing certain, like you said, certain blockbuster films. Can you imagine seeing a film, the opening scene of the first Blade at home versus being in the movie theater and not knowing, and not in the audience, just, having no idea of what's about to come in that scene and that whole sequence, And then
it's like going to see Avengers. You could not see either one of the final two Avengers movies at home for a debut. You needed to see that in an environment with a bunch of people. You had to have that experience of that just loud rockets roar, that eruption in Endgame, that eruption when Cap finally has Mjolnir, or that eruption when you see Captain Marvel come in, or you see that A-Force moment, all these different things. That has to be done in the theater. You don't feel the same at home.
You absolutely do not. But I'm gonna wrap it there for I guess we were talking for about 25 minutes, sir. I thank you so much for having coming on board.
Not a problem, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure things are busy, even though we have a little more time. We still, as we said, we still hustling and doing our own thing. So with that being said, can you tell folks, where they can find your work, man?
Absolutely, man. Twitter and Instagram at Mr. J Washington, MRJAY. You should know how to spell Washington. You really should. My YouTube channel, youtube.com/JAY Washington 80. The Mad Titan podcast, everywhere you get your podcasts from. I get you caught up in everything happening in the Marvel and DC live action cinematic universe. It's Barbershop Talk for Nerds. Brandon was on the episode. He knows how I keep it A100 on the show. Like, we have fun and we do it and keep it real. Also, myself and Winston A. Marshall, we have a live show called Blurs in the Hood that we do every Tuesday. It goes live 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel and our Facebook page. So youtube.com/Blurs in the Hood. That's youtube.com/BLERDS, the letter N, THEHOOD.
All right, yes, there you guys have it. Again, another episode of Movers and Shakers Unlimited live here on Facebook Live. I want to thank you guys so much for coming on and watching. Thanks again, like I said, Jay, and guys, be safe out there. See you soon.